Welcome to the Empowering Choices podcast. My name is Joshua.
I'm Lucas.
I'm Erik.
Erik and Lucas are licensed professional counselors, and today we're going to be reviewing the movie Turning Red, which I guess came out a while ago, but I just saw it last night.
Well, there we go. That must be the only important part is that it premiered for Josh.
Yeah.
And there we go.
And it was good.
Yeah, it didn't come out in theaters. It just went straight to Disney Plus.
So I wonder if that reduced like the amount of viewership that I got.
I'm going to guess that it did.
How popular is Disney Plus versus it being released in theaters?
Right, and it'd be really hard to know that. I mean,
right.
They could release it. I saw some reviewers that were like, I wish they would actually go and now put that in theaters.
Put it like back in theaters
theaters because they're like, I want to see this on a big screen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so you'd have some data to go with from that, but some people have seen it and they wouldn't go see it. But if they wanted to first see it, you had it in the big screen, they'd have gone and seen it, but they saw it in streaming. Mm-hmm. But it's one of those that you could put back out, I think.
So we think you should see it, but if you want to watch it without hearing us talk first, pause this and go watch it and then come back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but even if you haven't watched it, I think there's the stuff that we're going to talk about out of it will show some scenes, and there's just a lot of good stuff in it. So.
Well, and like we're talking about it because it's in the domain of the stuff that we talk about.
Right.
It's parenting, it's children, So if you just want to hear us talk about a movie you haven't seen, well, that's certainly one of your valid options.
And before we start, it's interesting because we're talking very positively here about the movie,
mm-hmm.
and
now you just gave away the entire tenor of the review.
Not quite. I think they probably picked up on that when you guys already said it's good.
Oh, wow.
But a lot of reviewers that I saw, they didn't have this same type of a tenor of this is a great movie.
Were you reading general reviews or from a specific audience?
I sampled some different video reviews that were over the internet. And, even people said, well, a lot of the criticism is that this is not like other Pixar movies. And
it seemed like it was squarely like other Pixar movies.
I know.
I was
because failing
so
to kind of see
unique,
that.
All of them.
Yeah.
Exactly. But it's, they said that because it's not like in other Pixar movies, people didn't like it because it's not like other Pixar movies.
So the reviewer decided what other people thought in the review?
I'm just saying that's the data that he seemed to have. I really enjoyed, now I'm not a big anime person, but I enjoyed the different graphic art pieces and styles that they took in this movie. I like realism. There was a lot of 3D realism to the characters and such, and good characterization, and a well-designed story.
Be really curious in what way it is not like other Pixar films, because when I watch it, I go, yeah, this is obviously a Pixar film.
Is it because people are thinking most Pixar films are just like more dumbed down or something?
Could
this had a lot of depth to it.
It did.
I did hear one person comment on the fact that a Pixar film is more commonly for an age group of like 5 to 10.
Yes.
And this has an age group of like, well, 13. I think as an adult, I enjoyed the film, but I think its target audience is probably like 14-year-old girl-ish.
Somewhere 10 to 14.
Sure. Yeah. So maybe that's why they thought it wasn't like a typical Pixar film.
Enjoyable for the parents too, because they set it in the 90s, and so there's
2002, I think.
Oh, is it 2002?
Yeah. I think
whatever it was,
the clips was.
It was close enough to the 90s that they had the Tamagotchi and the different.
Yes.
They didn't where they weren't walking around with iPhones in it.
Well, the director literally said she's like, this is kind of my childhood.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's the thing is that I saw a couple things that they were doing. Like one of the critics said, "Oh yeah, they were making the heart symbol, and kids in that age didn't make the heart symbol." And then there was another.
That was the criticism of the film.
That was what criticism.
Wow. If that's you really had to dig to go for that,
right? There was another thing in there, and now it's escaping me. But they were like, "Yeah, that kids didn't do that in that time period," and I'm like,
an inappropriate cultural thing was what the reviewer said. Not inappropriate, but like not well placed.
That's not what the one that I was referring to was. It was just a certain cultural thing from a different decade, but it did happen. And so you have the director who's, because the hard thing is more, I see kids do that today.
Yeah.
And so if you want to grab an audience that spans over several decades, you might grab some of these different things that happen and put them all together in your film, to which is set in Canada.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I grew up in America. I saw the different things in America. Maybe in Canada they were doing that.
Who knows?
Right. And so that's the thing, is that it's like, these are interesting criticisms.
Yeah.
If this is your criticism of the film, is that the cultural, like the slang terms are like anachronistic.
Right.
Like, oh no.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, and I did go to Canada in 1999, which was the year I graduated high school, and it was a different.
You're a cultural expert.
Yeah, and it was a different.
You'll have to let us know if this is culturally accurate.
Yeah.
So far, I thought it was pretty spot on. So all right. So
Here we go.
Shall we see the first clip? Here we go.
It's a Pixar film. The lamp's there.
The number one rule in my family: honor your parents. They're the supreme beings who gave you life, who sweated and sacrificed so much to put a roof over your head, food on your plate, an epic amount of food. The least you can do in return is every single thing they ask. Of course, some people are like, be careful. Honoring your parents sounds great, but if you take it too far, well, you might forget to honor yourself.
Honor your parents.
That is such a great, that's where a lot of my notes, all three of them, thank you for pointing that out. They all come from this one little place here in the beginning.
Well, this is literally like the intro to the film.
Right.
But it absolutely frames like a lot of what this film is about.
But here's what it doesn't frame. Because when you go in and you see the behind the scenes of making of this film, the director took a lot of her own life and put it in this film. So the director is second generation Chinese. Her parents immigrated to Canada. And so she was born and grew up in Canada. What she just described there, that the main character described, is very much Chinese culture.
Absolutely.
Very much honor your mother and father. It's a very kind of hierarchical culture, and has a lot of respect for the older that you get.
Right.
And the director even said it was really, really hard because I was also Canadian. And so at home, we're Chinese, and when I go out in the world, I'm Canadian. And being in the dichotomy that we faced as Chinese Canadians, that, at home, we're expected to be Chinese, yet in the world, we're Canadian.
Right.
And one of the things that I think this film right here in the beginning is depicting very well is there's a developmental stage where you are pulling away, because I love the scenes there. She's doing the facial and the nails and the toes there as a little girl with her mom on the couch. And they have the tennis trophy, Team Lee.
Right.
And so it's very indicative of those first stages that Erikson had, where you are taking on your parents' values and your parents' view of the world. Then you get into about the junior high age, and you're beginning to question those as to why they exist and why they are there and why they should be yours, and more why they should be yours, which will then follow into adolescence farther as to, well, do I want them to be mine? And so there's a natural developmental separation that's occurring, and yet Chinese culture, as many cultures, they don't have that in there, that you're going to naturally separate from us and become your own person. That's more Western culture that has had that, but sometimes too much to the other side of that pendulum. And so I see this kind of setting this up here as she's beginning to really look at, how do I honor my parents yet find myself?
Yeah. That summarizes the film.
Summarizes this part.
Well, no, I mean the course of the film is how does that play itself out, and the details are what the film is about.
Right, and I mean that's what at that age you're trying to figure out. Some of us are still trying to figure that out, but I do remember on that trip in '99, it was kind of my first big like away from home kind of thing. And we were with a group, and me and my buddy, there was a little bit of free time, and we weren't supposed to go very far, but me and my buddy got on the subway. And we actually did end up in Chinatown, Toronto.
Oh, funny.
But I remember even at that point, I was thinking, like, my mom is going to kill me. Like, if she knew that we had done this, she would be so upset.
Obviously, it would date you, but how old are you on this trip?
I would have just graduated high school.
Okay.
So
you're like 18.
Yeah. So, I mean, but yeah, I just remember because I was...
So you're an adult still thinking to yourself, my mom's going to kill me.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sort of balancing that. So when I was watching this, that was a lot of what I was thinking about because I think we all go through that. But yeah, my mom was very overprotective kind of like in here. And so there was always that balance of I want to do stuff with my friends, but I don't want to, dishonor my parents.
Transformed into a powerful, mystical beast. She was able to fend off bandits, protect her village, and save her family from ruin. Sun Yi passed this gift to her daughters for when they came of age, and they passed it to theirs. But over time, our family chose to come to a new world, and what was a blessing became an inconvenience.
So what do you guys think?
I like how the still that we have here is just that panda face staring at us like, oh. So that's the supernatural part of this film is she turns into a giant panda.
The whole reason that this film actually exists is that the director, writer, producer, she went to a zoo and she saw red pandas and she wanted to make a movie about red pandas.
So this is she needed a movie to make.
Yes.
So she made it about her life and stuffed red pandas into it.
No, she made it about red pandas and stuffed her life into
Fair
it.
enough. Fair enough.
And which I think is just it's how movies come about. And she's like, I want to make a movie about a red panda, and she actually said in an interview that She thought it would be so cool if you had a teenage girl who could just poof into a red panda at will. And so she was really kind of putting this story together.
Yeah.
I find it really interesting and creative that as she's, because this fits really well with Chinese folklore. And so the panda, the panda is a gift. It's a gift power. We have superheroes, Captain America, Thor, they have their Wonder Woman, they have their powers, and we don't always think about where they're linked to. But this power was given to a woman to be able to save a people, and given by a god, and then her line of girls. Of women in the family, so it's kind of like Wonder Woman. They keep that power, and then as time progresses, that power is not exactly needed, and so it becomes inconvenient. And so criticisms I've seen about this movie is that it's all about puberty, and yet it never actually says in there it's about puberty. It's at this point, it's talking about this is about a story.
Well, and I mean, is that where we want to talk about like what the title implies or doesn't imply, right? I mean,
I think as we go on with clips, I think we'll have
come back to it because I can think of at least several connotations what the title might be implying.
Sure,
but like I don't think the film itself never directly references the title. The title is just hovering over the film. Because like in some movies, like the title is directly referenced, or it's the location, or it's a line of dialogue. This isn't. You have to use your interpretive brain to be like, okay, why is it called Turning Red? And I think the on its face, interpretation is red panda.
Breakfast is ready. No sugar.
Coming.
It's Godzilla.
God Panda.
Porridge.
Oh.
isn't happening. This isn't happening.
The dad is the low-key best character in this movie.
He really is.
Wake up.
Is everything okay?
Don't come in here.
What's going on, honey? Are you sick? Is it a fever? A stomachache? Chills? Constipation? Wait, is it that?
I love what Dad does here.
Yep.
It's my favorite part.
Nope.
What is too soon?
And she turns for Dad.
Don't worry, Maymay. I'll get everything you need. Mommy's here. Jin, it's happening!
Nope.
Come on, please.
Maymay, I'm kind of... It's going to be okay.
No, it's not. We just get out.
Excuse me?
I didn't mean that. I'm a gross red monster. Stop.
Wow.
Yeah, I definitely. I mean, and I was seeing this in some of the
Right.
the casting talking about it. There's like a bunch of women who are being interviewed because there were a bunch of women on staff who made the film.
Yes.
Shocking. And there's this one dude, and what was he saying? He was connecting just some various characters. So we're a bunch of dudes walking into a movie about kind of a girl's journey. So we're all connecting to the dad in the background. He's like eating donuts and like slipping out of the scene, going nope.
Right? I mean, I thought they did this scene very tastefully, very humorously. I mean, it naturally, because this superpower has hit her, and she doesn't even know what is going on with her. There's a natural part in a girl's life where menstruation comes, and so mom assumes that's what's happening.
Sure.
Yeah.
And she begins to get all of everything that would be needed to be able to be there and help her daughter. But at the same time, that's not what's happening. It's just an assumed thing. And that's one of the criticisms that I can't talk at the moment. Criticisms that I saw out there on reviewers is that this became a pinnacle part of what the movie is about.
They were criticizing the fact that the film was intensely about a girl's first menstruation.
Right.
That was the interpretation that they were making, that they were then criticizing.
Yes. And even, some of them spent time on, because what you'll see here next is that she's putting all those different feminine products on the counter and she's naming what they are. And, one reviewer said, that might be tough if you had little kids and now they're going to ask you what are pads. And my reflection upon hearing that is, I'm pretty sure if you have a mom that you're in the house with, you've seen this.
Right. That may not be a shock anyway.
Right. Yeah. As to why that would even be, because we knew what those were growing up,
What are these in the bathroom, Mom? You'd already asked that question.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And at the same time, all the reviewers that I saw of this were all male.
Oh, there you go.
All male talking about this and getting hung up on this. And the reason why I chuckle at the dad moving away is guys don't talk about this. We don't get involved in this. We don't know about this. We know about it, but we run away from it, just like Dad did. I'm out. And yet we're going to review it. I found it to be an interesting thing. I found it a lot of Christian reviewers got hung up on this as being one of those pieces. And again, when I saw that, I thought, oh man, this is just a comical piece. I see how this fits in, but it's not what this movie is about. In fact, the director even said, no, I wanted the movie to be about big changes that occur in life. And when I went to sell it to the bosses, I had to put in puberty as a part of selling it to the bosses. So to get Pixar to be on board, she had to shift from big changes to big changes and including puberty.
Yeah.
So there were people at Pixar who wanted that more emphasized compared to what the director originally wanted. That was your impression?
Sounds like it.
That's your impression?
Yeah, that's my impression. Which again, what is puberty? And
Big
a lot
changes
of times
that include lots of things.
A lot of times when you hit puberty, it's big changes, but then it stops a lot on menstruation or voice change or other things that are just these drop in the bucket big moments. Whereas puberty includes the entire span of the growth of the body of the human being. It's one reason why I didn't like kind of, talking about this film as a coming of age, because the definition of a coming of age is going from childhood to adulthood. It's that transition to where you're an adult and seen by your society as an adult. Yeah, for us, that's 18. And she's still 13 after this part. And, so I like what they did here. And I see this as you've got opportunities to talk to your kids about things here.
Right.
How can we not use it as a foundation? Let's talk about stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. There's just thing after thing after thing that I was sitting there thinking, this is a great example. This is a great illustration.
Right.
This is a great reference point. So what's fascinating is the movie goes on, she's supposed to be repressing this panda, so to speak.
Her mother's perspective is make it go away.
Right.
And then as the film goes on, like to the nth degree, we're going to make this disappear from your life.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
The panda part.
But then it keeps coming out, and then she decides to use it
Right.
to raise money so that they can go see the band for town.
Right.
Are these clips that are coming up?
So basically I'm setting up what I think our next
nice.
clip, which is
Nice.
that she then gets hired to be the panda at a party.
yeah.
And then I think this is shortly right after that party is.
Yeah, we did it! We are seeing Fortown!
This is right at the end of that party.
Yeah, the party's not quite over.
Dang, he is working you.
What a diva! It'll all be worth it. Tomorrow, we are walking into that concert, girls, and coming out women.
Literally goosebumps. What do you think Jessie smells like? Milk chocolate and wet rocks. So manly.
It's happening, Robert Jr. You're finally gonna meet your daddy. Your hot uncles.
You just wanted to have the Tamagotchi in one
Yeah, I
of those.
just wanted to make sure we got that in.
Like, that clip was over, Josh. Oh, wait,
Yeah,
no, the
yeah.
Tamagotchi.
Not until
We
it
had
got to the
get that
Tamagotchi.
part.
Gosh.
So what do you guys think?
Well, I mean, I think there's a couple of things, and I think I picked this clip for a reason. It dovetails into what we were just talking about, because the main character just says, we're going to go into that concert, girls, and come out women. Right. And so that, if I was the one who threw around the term coming of age, and I think that expresses how that film talks about that, like the things that she's going through. And then they make this concert kind of a linchpin moment of, we're going to do this. And that's the thing that's going to make us women. So that's the way the film discusses it. And then of course there's the criticisms around how well was that done, or.
Well, and I could definitely get behind the wagon of the film was talking about how this entire developmental process is what makes us or brings us each as human beings to the place of being men and women. One of the criticisms about this part in the movie is that, well, in order to do all of this, they lied. They lied to their parents. It was supporting lying. And
Because she's hiding this
hiding
fundraising
it.
she's doing. She's
Yep.
hiding the fact that she's turning into the
Yep.
Red Panda repeatedly on purpose to earn money to go to a concert,
the
that her
concert.
mother explicitly said no
does
to.
not want her to go to in any way, shape, or form. Even though she has controlled, and I like the major PowerPoint presentation that she put together.
Oh, she does. Yeah, she literally
convince
puts
her parents with other types of what do we call it? Examples. That's not the right word.
Multimedia presentation.
Multimedia, presentation, and her mom and dad seem to be, convinced that yes, you've gotten more control, but not in a big crowd like that. We're not going to test that. We're not going to go too
because
far.
her mom's like, you better not turn into a panda in the middle of a crowd. Yeah.
Right. You haven't proven that in your presentation because you haven't experienced it. So they put together these lies, and I was just, as I'm listening to some of the critics, talk about how this is glorifying lies, and I'm thinking, where did you guys grow up? I mean, I'm not trying to glorify lies, but are you saying you've never lied as in your life, and especially as a kid? As a kid, you didn't lie about something so that you could have it experience it. You wanted it.
Yeah, this is just showing childhood.
Right.
I remember when the Super Nintendo was coming out. Not the regular Nintendo, but it was now the next generation. And I was really begging for one of these. And my mom said, well, the problem is there's not going to be enough games available for it or whatever. And I said, no, there are. She's like, okay, we'll call the video store and find out. So I called and I said, hey, do you guys have as many Super Nintendo games as you do the other? And they said no. They said, since it's new, we only have a few, but there'll be more coming out. So what did I tell my mom? I said,
there's tons.
They have tons. They have, it's unlimited.
Yep.
Yeah, because that's what you do when you're a kid.
I see a lot of myself in this main character when I was a kid and growing up. Did I lie? Yes. Did I get caught? Yes.
Yes.
Did my parents appropriately handle it? Yes. Did I learn from that? Mostly, and yes.
Yeah.
At least at this point in your life, you have since learned from it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But at that time, it was kind of
At age 8.
mostly, and we're working on
It's a work
yes.
in progress.
Great opportunities to talk to your kids about some of these different things.
Totally.
I mean, because if you think this is like glorifying lying to the degree that you don't want your kids to see it, they're already seeing it in how they're embedded within life.
Right.
Public school, private school, I'm going to tell you even online school, so they're seeing it. TV, they're seeing it. Talk about it.
Yeah.
Use this as an opportunity. How well did this work? What do you think?
Well, and even in this movie, as we're about to see with this next clip, mom finds out what's going on and the whole thing with Four Town, and she herself has now turned into her panda, and she shows up at the concert.
So let me pause you before you
Yeah.
do that one. There was a different criticism that I heard of this film, and it was the reason why I popped this scene up. Is she's using her panda ability to earn money. Right. And there's a particular exchange between these two friends. And I don't remember what the boy's name is. Tyler, I think.
Yeah.
Tyler's like,
think
"Hey,
so.
where is she?"
Yeah.
Right. And one of the girls responds, "Boy, is he working you?"
Yeah. Yeah. She said it when they were on the roof.
Yeah. And so it's in this clip. And so one of the criticisms I heard was that like, oh, this is showing how a teenage girl should sell her body for money. Right, because one interpretation could theoretically be that that's what she's doing. Right, she's selling her physical presence for money to earn to this concert, and we shouldn't be glorifying that to teenagers.
So I think this goes back to college poetry class. I mean, how much do you want to stretch into this?
Sure. Well, and that's what we've seen in the critiques.
Right.
Exactly. People taking ideas and stretching into them.
Because what is she selling?
She's selling her panda.
She's selling her, and she's not even selling. She's renting.
She's renting her panda.
She's renting her panda, and before the clip, she's letting them take pictures with her. She's giving them rides. She's playing with them. I mean, I heard on several different critiques, that there were these sexual overtones that were there. And I'm like, she turned into a giant panda and she's appropriately connecting with her peers. Yes, she wouldn't be there because they don't like Tyler and Tyler doesn't like them. It was an exchange of I want you to come to my birthday party because I want people to come to my birthday party. Right. And because you've already been basically renting or selling panda pictures at school, I want you to come there because then everybody will show up.
Right.
Yeah. If you're going to go to, she's selling her body, I think you're missing, some of the bigger points and you're making something out of this that isn't there.
There's some elements of the kinds of things that you would expect from teenage girls because like there's some earlier scenes where May is like drawing pictures of a boy she finds attractive, and she's shocked at herself that she's finding this boy attractive.
But she's experiencing these feelings,
right? And then there's a part of the clip that we just watched about one of her friends asking like, "What does one of the Four Town boys smell like?"
Right,
right. And so it's that same kind of thing of like teenage girls finding boys attractive. And so, like, is that sexualizing teenage girls? Well, I mean, it is part of the puberty experience. So take that for what that's worth.
Well, when you get into the whole thing about sexualization, and it's really hard in our society. It's because so much of everything has been sexualized.
Everything.
And women, it's been proven, they have a stronger sense of smell.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Okay.
sure. Yeah.
And so
That's
you have
scientifically accurate compared to men. Yeah.
Yeah. Medically, they've proven that. Scientifically, they've proven that. And so here these girls are talking about these certain smells that they might really like if it's someone that they're, attracted to.
Right.
And we're right here at the beginning of where they're really becoming more aware of, what their sense of self is. What are these feelings of being attracted to the opposite self? It was just a year ago that they might have thought boys had cooties, and why would we want anything to do with them? They're just annoying. And now it's like, I wonder what he smells like, And so you've got to find a healthiness in attraction versus sexualizing everything, and see what is healthy and appropriate in that age of development and in that type of human interactions.
Big trouble, young lady. I'm shutting this down right now! Everyone, go home! Where are your parents? Put some clothes on! This isn't you!
This is me!
So Mama shows up and she is not happy.
Not at all happy.
How could you be so crass?
Oh, that's nothing. You want to see crass?
What are you doing? Stop moving like that!
Bothering you?
Stop it!
That money maker! Destroy her with their big butt! Yeah!
Stop singing now!
Ladies,
I thought that was funny.
Right? No, I totally agree.
Well, and it's again, it's kind of related to the same criticisms,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Like one of the friends comments, "Destroy her with your big butt."
Oh, interesting.
That's it's kind of muffled in the comments, but that's what she's yelling at May.
yeah.
And so like, is that sexualizing a teenage girl by having her dance that way? Right.
Right. And so
That's the criticism, right?
for myself, I'm looking at the struggle. The struggle is between these two worlds. And when she begins to torque like that, that's the farthest you could get from the Chinese world that she was raised in.
That's literally why she's doing it.
Exactly. And it's, a huge amount of overkill on the world that she sees herself in. Her point is, you don't know me.
Well, and I think it's a pretty good depiction in a intensely supernatural and heightened, depiction of like, yeah, do teenagers and their parents fight?
Mm-hmm.
That's what this is.
Do they have this kind of fight without the biting of the hand? Yes, most of the time.
Right. Well, I mean, the yelling and I mean, absolutely, those kinds of things have happened, and it's depicting a version of that.
Right. And do teenagers overemphasize something at this heightened level of we've lost our mind together? And, you didn't like that? Well, maybe you won't like this either.
Right, let me take it up to 11.
To 11. And exactly. And, with the parent already at 11 on their side of the fence, what I think it is a really good opportunity to be able to talk about these situations with your kids. How do, even as parents, if you got together and said, how do we not get to the place when our kids become in this place to where we can have a conversation to where they don't feel like they have to torque their butt in our face to be able to make their point?
How do we not get so angry that we tear the concert apart?
Well, yeah, there's that too. But she didn't feel heard, and she didn't feel listened to by mom, and she feels very much compacted into what mom wants her to be and sees her as, which goes right back to the beginning narration. You can honor your parents so much that you stop honoring yourself. I understand the criticisms. If I had drawn it and written it, would it be different? Probably. But I think it was trying to emphasize a big point in the struggle that when we get our horns locked, things come out and happen that we wouldn't have normally done or said. And the point is, we need to be heard.
I think a lot of this film, if I was going to summarize it, is like it depicts one way that this plays itself out, and that makes for a good example of a situation that all of the actions on all of the characters' parts are not always correct,
Right.
but it's what people do. Right. And particularly at the beginning of the film, there's a couple of scenes where I was watching it going, because it talks about May. She talks about honor your parents. And then in a different scene, she says, I'm an independent everything. I do everything I want all the time, and no one can tell me what to do. And I'm watching the film at first, I'm really confused. And then it's like, oh, wait a second. She's confused. She's debating this in her own head.
Yep.
And then there's another scene which just depicts like, just some lack of reality, right? Of where the dad is envisioning himself as this iron chef, person, and it goes to this little montage, and then it slams back to reality and goes, oh, wait. So there's some unreliable narrator elements in this film. We're not being told like strict reality all the time, or the characters' opinions change, so you can't always see every scene as this is right or correct or at face value, because there's some interpretation that happens even over the course of the film.
Very much
so. The character reviews their own actions and thinks differently about them as they go on. So it does make for a very good like discussion point or leaping off point, which is really appropriate for puberty and transition anyway.
Right.
Right.
And parent and child conversations.
Absolutely.
So in this next clip, we're getting to where they have done a ritual. They're repressing the panda, and everyone's kind of let it go, and she has an opportunity to do it or not.
I'm changing, Mom. I'm finally figuring out who I am. But I'm scared it'll take me away from you.
Me too. I see you, Mei. You try to make everyone happy, but are so hard on yourself. And if I taught you that, I'm sorry. So don't hold back. For anyone. The farther you go, the prouder I'll be.
And obviously, super spoiler scene there. But
yeah.
What I saw a lot of criticism on that last line, the farther you go. And so she's, she's even, Mei is talking about, letting go of your inner panda and exploring it and doing these different things. And the farther you go, and how, I don't know why it always goes to sensual and sexual.
Yeah. Well, you said everything in this American culture, right, is sexualized. So maybe that's just where the reviewer is coming from.
Right, exactly. Because what I'm hearing Mom say is, keep exploring yourself. Keep exploring who you are. Go farther and don't stop for anybody, not even me. Don't let me stop you exploring and developing who you are.
Well, and I think this exchange really is a good address to the criticisms that talk about like this, the criticism that says this movie is glorifying rebellion against your parents, right? Does she rebel against her parents? Yes, in some ways.
In some ways.
But this really depicts a lot of the conflict both of the characters are having of like, Mei is saying, I want this, but I love you, Mom, and I don't want to be taken away from you.
I won't lose you.
Right. Yeah. And the mom is also expressing her conflict around, I wanted this, but I'm also seeing that you need something different.
Right.
So it's very much showing that it's not glorifying the rebellion, it's depicting it in a semi-realistic fashion. I mean, as far as the way that the emotions play themselves out.
We set the stage in the beginning narration, where honor your father and mother means do everything they want you to do.
Right, to the nth degree.
To the nth degree. That's not a system that acknowledges that human separation as a healthy part of human growth and development occurs. You just have to do whatever to the nth degree, and you just get made as a product of, whatever your parents, make you as. And that's not realistic. So, because I have lots of parents that come in and will say, well, my kid's a teenager, about to be a teenager, so they're just going to rebel against everything. And I'm like, why are we saying that?
Yeah.
It's an assumed.
It's an assumed. That's what teenagers do. That's just the way it goes. I'm like, says who? Now let's talk about the developmental process. There's a separation, which can lead to some challenges as they're trying to form and know who they are as a separate individual person. But it doesn't mean that they hate you and don't want anything to do with you and never want to have anything to do with what you believe or what you've taught them. And it doesn't mean they're all going to go out and get drunk, do drugs, and run their cars into trees as rebellion, because that's just the way it goes.
Right.
It doesn't.
When we see some good scenes in this film, and I don't remember if we have clips of them or not, but like the synthesis that May comes to by the end of the film of like doing all of these things with her family that are very similar to the way she started as. She's not running screaming from her family and cutting off everything with them. And then she blends in these other things that she's doing on her own that her mother doesn't entirely approve of, but she goes, fine. Right. So she comes to this synthesis of it, and I would think that chronologically May is a teenager at that point.
Right.
And she's not explicitly running screaming from her parents as a rebel, but she is going through these stretching and growing phases of becoming, who she is compared to who her parents thought she should be.
And compared to who the women in her family line have chosen to be.
Oh, sure.
All of them have locked up their pandas.
Yeah, her mom's on the other side of the veil,
Yes.
and so do her aunts and her grandma. Everyone goes to
Right.
that side, and May does something different.
Right. And even one of the aunts says, wait, she's going to keep her panda? And
I
they're
think
like,
she says, why does May get to?
well, I think you're right.
Yeah,
I think
and
it's
like,
a
wait. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, you've already made this choice. Come on.
To which they could still make the choice and not do it right there. But I think this film really shows some good human development, but there has to be an understanding that separation is going to occur. Now, how do you work with that to where you're not seeing it as you didn't do what I said, you didn't do what I want, you didn't do what I think, you didn't do, the black and white, so therefore it's all rebellion and you're not honoring your father and mother and you're a bad kid. Verse, okay, there's some things here that I see you're thinking and you're wanting to move towards, and let's talk about it. Let's just have some good conversations about these things, and let me give you some insights.
Yeah, and I think that pretty much kind of summarizes our thoughts here, is that even though there's a vast array of opinions out there, we think this is a good movie for conversation. It just brings up so much.
It does.
So,
I had a parent tell me when my daughter becomes a teenager, she's just going to do whatever she wants with her body and there's no way to stop it. And I said, well, but is that what you believe? And she said, well, that's just what happens. And I said, no, that's not my question. My question is that what you really believe, that a human being in teenage years can't control any part of their body? She goes, well, I don't want that to be. Why don't you tell her that and why?
Do we have a final clip here, Josh? Because I think there's a clip of the film that also talks about what Erik is just talking about.
Guys, bring it in!
Ready to get your karaoke on?
Totally. Bye, Mom. Bye, Dad.
Hold on. You're not going out like that, are you?
My panda, my choice, Mom.
So I love that. I know critics hated that.
Yeah.
That I heard, especially in the Christian reviewers, because it's glorifying, she gets to be rebellious and she's talking back to her parent and she's telling her parent what she's going to do with her body.
That still that we have right there is just, that's the whole thing.
Right. And I'm like, wait a minute. Have you guys never, ever seen sitcoms? I mean, sitcoms in America have dealt with many of this type of a same thing. And I remember like in the George Lopez show, there was constant threads of this between he and his teenage daughter, and she would come down the stairs sneakily, and she had an overcoat on, and she's headed out the front door, and he's like, wait, come back here. No. Open your jacket up. And so she opens it up, and he's like, close it. And he's like, upstairs. No, no daughter of mine is going out like that. No. It's the same type
when
of
she
thing.
She says the line, the mom does of, you're not going out looking like that.
Right. It's the exact same
It's
line.
the line.
Yeah, because in the sitcom, his daughter says, my body, my choice. And he says, not going to ever happen like that as long as you live in my house. And so if I had written this, I might have put in here a little more of a conversation piece on that.
Right.
And not just left it like that. But I think it emphasizes some of the things that they've been trying to do throughout this movie.
Well, and maybe we would say, and I think one of the ways you could look at this film is that, like, it depicts some things. And I think you don't necessarily have to say, because the film depicts them, either the filmmaker or the audience has to assume that that is good and right and true and perfect.
Right.
Because, like, you could watch this scene for yourself and think about it, or with your kids and go, okay, well, what are we going to do with that exchange, which you're going to have?
Right.
Right. And so, like, it's a depiction that I think maybe is a good springboard for discussion, rather than this is a depiction, and because it was depicted, therefore right, true, and good 100%.
I remember when I was in that situation there, my mom was really good at talking to me about things, but there were things that I might pop out and say like that, and she would just look at me and go, yeah, that's not going to fly. And she'd walk away. It's that whole George Lopez type of thing. Not in this house, no. That one's off the table, not for debate. But I think this provides, again, you could, you watch this, show with your kid, and you've got a moment there that you can go back to and talk about with them. What do you think about when she said, my panda, my choice? And how does that, relate, into real life between us?
So I think that, again, we view this film and go, yeah, watch it with your kids. Watch it with your kids.
Even watch it before you. And then
I was going to say, watch it before so you know what you're getting into. Because I think one of our fundamental things that we continue to talk about is, like, to be an involved parent.
Yeah.
And so, like, you could watch this movie because it's fun, but you could also watch this movie as a launching pad to things that you want to talk about with your kid.
Right.
Totally.
Yeah, so definitely consider watching that and using it. And if you enjoyed this discussion, we have other videos like this on our channel, so we'd encourage you to subscribe and like the video, and then make sure to check out our app. You can find that in the Apple and Google store by searching Empowering Choices Parenting, and you can go to our website at empoweringchoices.community. We'll see you on the next show.